The storm warnings had forced everyone to leave 3 days ago. Everyone except Dr. Una Park. She stood at the window of her small research station on Verath 7, watching the sky turn strange colors. Purple and orange mixed together as the solar storms approached. The evacuation shuttle had come for her, but she had refused to board. Her work was here. Her life was here. Besides, the station's shields would protect her from the radiation. Una was 32 years old and had spent the last 4 years studying the wildlife of this hostile world. She knew every creature in the crystalline forest that surrounded her station. She knew their sounds, their movements, their habits. But there was one species she had never seen up close. No one had. No one who lived to tell about it anyway. The Varth. They were the reason this planet remained mostly empty. They were the reason 3 colonization attempts had failed. They were massive predators, standing 4 meters tall on 6 powerful legs. Their scales were black as the void between stars, and strange lights glowed beneath their skin. Every scientist who had tried to study them closely had died. The Varth did not allow other intelligent beings near them. It was their only rule, and they enforced it with terrible violence. Una had seen them from a distance through her long-range cameras. She had recorded their hunts, their territorial fights, their strange glowing patterns. But she had never been close. She was not stupid. The storm sirens began to wail as she prepared her evening meal. She turned them off. She knew the storm was coming. She did not need the reminder. That was when she heard the sound. It came from beyond the perimeter fence. A deep, rumbling groan that she felt in her chest more than heard with her ears. It was a sound of pain. Una had studied enough animals to recognize suffering when she heard it. She went to her monitor and activated the perimeter cameras. What she saw made her blood turn cold. A Vorith lay collapsed against the fence. It was enormous, even lying down. Its black scales were wet with something dark, blood. A massive wound ran along its side, and Una could see strange, worm-like creatures moving in the torn flesh. Parasites. They were eating it alive. The creature's glowing patterns were dim and flickering. It was dying. Every protocol she had ever learned told her to stay inside. Category to 9 thread. Do not approach. Do not engage. Contact authorities and wait. That was the rule. That was how you survived on Verath-7. But Una kept watching the monitor. The Vorith's great head lifted weakly, and for a moment, its eyes seemed to look directly at the camera. Directly at her. They were intelligent eyes. Eyes that knew death was coming. She grabbed her medical kit. Before she could change her mind, the evening air was cold as she stepped outside. The crystalline trees around the station made soft chiming sounds in the wind. Una walked toward the fence, her heart beating so hard she thought it might break free from her chest. The medical kit felt heavy in her trembling hands. The Varth heard her coming. Its head turned, and a growl rose from its throat. The sound was so deep and powerful that the ground beneath Una's feet seemed to vibrate. She stopped walking. The creature's eyes locked onto her, and she could see the predator behind them. Even wounded, even dying, this thing could kill her in a heartbeat. She should run. Every instinct screamed at her to run. Instead, she spoke. "I know you are hurt," she said softly. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I am not here to harm you. I want to help. Please let me help." The Varth growl continued, but it did not attack. It watched her with those strange, glowing eyes. Una took another step forward. Then another. The growl grew louder, but she kept walking. She kept talking, keeping her voice gentle and calm. "You have parasites in your wound. They will kill you if someone does not remove them. I can remove them. I have medicine that will help. Please, I do not want you to die." She reached the fence. The Vorath was just on the other side, close enough that she could smell it. It smelled like blood and something else, something like burning metal. Its scales were beautiful up close, even covered in blood. The patterns of light beneath them pulsed weakly, like a dying heartbeat. Yuna climbed over the fence slowly. The Vorath's eyes never left her. Its growl had faded to a low rumble, but she knew it could strike at any moment. She knelt beside the massive creature. Her hands were shaking so badly she could hardly open her medical kit. The wound was terrible. The parasites had burrowed deep into the flesh. An infection had already begun to spread. This would take hours to clean properly. "This will hurt," she warned the Vorath. "I am sorry, but I have to remove them." She began to work. The Vorath flinched when she touched the wound. Its massive claws dug into the ground, and for one terrible moment, Yuna was certain it would kill her. But it did not. It lay still, trembling with pain, as she carefully removed each parasite from its flesh. She talked to it the whole time. She told it about her work, about the creatures she had studied, about her family back on Earth. She told it about the solar storm that was coming, and how beautiful the sky would look tomorrow. She talked because the sound of her voice seemed to calm the creature, and because if she stopped talking, she would start screaming from fear. 2 hours passed. The sky grew darker. The wind grew colder. Yuna's hands were covered in blood, but she did not stop. She cleaned the wound completely, applied medicine to fight the infection, and wrapped the injury with the largest bandages she had. When she finished, she sat back on her heels and looked at the Vorath. Its eyes were closed. For a moment, she thought it had died. Then its great chest rose and fell, and she released a breath she did not know she had been holding. "You should rest now," she whispered. "The medicine will help. You are strong. You will survive." She gathered her medical kit and stood. Her legs were so tired she could barely walk. She began to move back toward the fence. Behind her, she heard movement. She turned. The Vorath was standing. Despite its wound, despite how close to death it had been, it had risen to its full height. 4 meters of muscle and scale and claw towered over her in the darkness. Its glowing patterns pulsed stronger now, and its eyes looked down at her with an expression she could not read. Yuna did not run. She was too tired to run. She simply stood there and waited for whatever came next. Vorath lowered its massive head until its face was level with hers. She could feel its breath, hot against her skin. She could see every detail of its scales, its teeth, its ancient, intelligent eyes. Then it did something no human had ever seen a Vorath do. It dipped its head to her. A single slow bow. Before she could react, it turned and walked into the forest. Its movements were careful because of its wound, but there was strength in them. It would survive. She knew it would survive. Yuna stood alone in the darkness for a long time. The wind chimed through the crystal trees around her. The stars began to appear above. She had just done something impossible. She had touched a Vorath and lived. More than that, she had helped one, and it had acknowledged her kindness. She did not know what it meant. She did not know what would happen next, but as she finally walked back to her station, her hands still covered in alien blood, she felt something she had not felt in years. Wonder. 3 weeks had passed since the night Yuna saved the Vorath. The solar storms had ended, the sky had returned to its normal pale green, and the research station was quiet once again. Supply ships were delayed because of debris in the orbital lanes, but Yuna had enough food and water to last another month. She was not worried. What worried her was the movement near her perimeter. The first time she noticed it, she thought her sensors were broken. Something large had crossed the detection zone during the night, but by the time she checked the cameras, it was gone. The second time, she saw a shadow moving through the crystal trees, too quick and too big to identify. The third time, she found something outside her fence that made her heart stop. A dead creature lay on the ground. It was a forest runner, one of the fast prey animals that lived in the crystal woods. It had been killed recently. Its body was still warm, and it had been left directly outside her station's main door. Una stared at it for a long time before she understood. She went back inside and reviewed all her security footage from the past 3 weeks. What she saw made her sit down heavily in her chair. The Varth had been visiting. Not just the ones she had saved, but others too. They came at night, always staying just outside the camera's clear view, always leaving before dawn. And they had been leaving her gifts. The forest runner was not the first. There had been others, left in places where the cameras could not see clearly. Food, fresh kills, offerings. She was being watched. She was being provided for. Her communication panel beeped, and she answered it. The face of Commander Tae-Sung An appeared on the screen. He was a military liaison stationed on the nearest human outpost, 2 days away by ship. His expression was serious, as it always was. "Dr. Park, we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" "A research vessel from Helix Dynamics entered the Vareth system 6 hours ago. They have filed for emergency landing rights, claiming engine trouble." "We both know that is a lie." And his stomach tightened. Helix Dynamics was a corporation with a terrible reputation. They captured alien creatures and sold them to collectors, zoos, and weapons researchers. They had no morals and no limits. They had been trying to get a Vareth specimen for years. "Can you stop them?" "Their paperwork is technically legal. We can delay them, but we cannot prevent them from landing. They will reach Vareth 7 within 36 hours. Commander Am paused. "I have requested military support, but it will not arrive in time. You may want to consider evacuation." "No, Dr. Park, these people are dangerous. If they find out what you did, if they discover you have made contact with a Varth." "I am not leaving, Commander. This is my research site, my work. I will not let them take it from me." Commander An sighed. "I expected you to say that. Be careful, Doctor. I will do what I can from here." The screen went dark. Yun spent the next day preparing. She secured her data, backed up her files to remote servers, and set up additional cameras around the perimeter. She did not know what else to do. She was a scientist, not a soldier. She had no weapons, no training, no way to fight off a corporate extraction team. When night fell, she sat by her window and watched the crystal forest. The trees glowed faintly in the darkness, and the stars above were thick and bright. Somewhere out there, the Vareth were watching her. She wondered if they understood what was coming. The Helix ship arrived the next afternoon. It was an ugly thing, all sharp angles and dirty metal. It landed in the clearing half a kilometer from Eunice Station, and within an hour, a group of people were walking toward her door. There were 6 of them. 5 were guards in combat armor, carrying weapons Una did not recognize. The 6th was a tall man in an expensive coat. He had a thin face, cold eyes, and a smile that never reached them. He introduced himself as Director Jill Soo Beek. "Dr. Park," he said, stepping into her station without being invited. "What a pleasure to finally meet you. I have read all your research papers. Fascinating work. What do you want?" "Straight to business." "I like that." He walked around her main room, looking at her equipment, her samples, her screens. "We know you have made contact with the Varth. We know you have somehow gained their trust. We want to know how. I do not know what you were talking about." Director Beek turned to look at her. His smile did not change, but something in his eyes grew colder. "Dr. Park, we have been monitoring communications in this sector for months. We know about your encounter. We know the creature survived. And we know it has been coming back." He stepped closer. "Give us your data." Tell us what you did. Help us capture a specimen. In return, we will make you very wealthy and pretend we never saw your protocol violations. Protocol violations? You approached a Category 9 creature without authorization. You made contact without permission. You failed to report the incident through proper channels. His smile widened. Those are serious offenses. They could end your career. They could put you in prison. Yuna felt fear crawling up her spine, but she kept her face calm. I saved an animal's life. There is nothing wrong with that. Then give us your data and we will leave. No. For a moment, Director Beak's smile flickered. Then it returned, harder than before. Very well. We will set up camp nearby and conduct our own research. I am sure we will find what we need eventually. The Varth are not as clever as people think. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Think about my offer, Dr. Park. It will not stay open forever. They left, and Yuna collapsed into her chair. Her hands were shaking. She had made an enemy today, and she had no way to fight back. That night, she could not sleep. She sat by the window, watching the darkness, worrying about what tomorrow would bring. Around midnight, she heard sounds from the Helix camp. They were setting up equipment, preparing for some kind of hunt. The sounds of metal and machinery carried through the quiet forest. Then, suddenly, everything went silent. Yuna leaned forward, straining to see. The crystal trees blocked her view, but she could tell that something had changed. The normal night sounds of the forest had stopped. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. She activated her long-range cameras and pointed them toward the Helix camp. What she saw made her gasp that the Varth had come. Not one, but 7. They stood in a circle around the Helix camp, their massive bodies still as statues. Their scales absorbed the light, making them look like holes cut into reality. Their eyes glowed in the darkness, fixed on the humans in the center. The one she had saved was there. She recognized the scar on its side, pale against the black scales. It stood at the front of the group, larger than the others, its glowing patterns pulsing with slow, steady light. The Helix guards had their weapons raised, but they were not firing. They were not moving at all. They were frozen with fear. Director Beak stood in the center of the camp, his expensive coat hanging open. His cold eyes wide with something Yuna had never expected to see on his face. Terror. The Varth did not attack. They did not move. They simply stood there, watching, waiting. The message was clear without any words. This human is ours. Touch her, and you will answer to us. Minutes passed. No one moved. Then, slowly, the scarred Varth turned its head and looked directly at Yuna's camera. It knew she was watching. It wanted her to see this. It wanted her to understand. She had saved its life. Now it was protecting hers. The Varth remained there until dawn. When the first light touched the crystal trees, they faded back into the forest like shadows. The Helix team did not sleep that night. By midday, they had packed up their equipment and returned to their ship. Director Beak did not come to threaten Yuna again. He did not even look at her station as his ship lifted off and disappeared into the sky. Yuna stood outside, watching them leave. The morning air was cool and fresh, and somewhere in the forest, she could feel the Varth watching her, protecting her. She did not fully understand what had happened. She did not know why they had chosen her or what they wanted. But one thing was clear. She was not alone anymore. 2 months after the Helix incident, Yuna received a message that changed everything. She was summoned to appear before the Galactic Biological Council. The council was made up of representatives from 12 spacefaring species. They controlled research permits, colonization rights, and species protection laws across hundreds of worlds. They were powerful, ancient, and notoriously slow to act on anything. For them to summon a single human researcher was unusual. For them to do it within weeks of an incident was unheard of. The shuttle that came for Yuna was not human. It was a Kirith vessel, all smooth curves and shimmering metal. The insectoid pilots did not speak to her during the journey. They simply watched her with their compound eyes and made clicking sounds to each other. The Council Station orbited Verath 7, a massive ring of metal and glass that held representatives from across the known galaxy. Yuna had never seen so many different species in one place. Tall, thin beings walked beside short, round creatures. Floating entities drifted past mechanical bodies. The air was filled with translator chirps and the smell of 100 different worlds. She was led to a central chamber, where the council had gathered. 12 seats rose in a circle around a speaking platform. Each seat held a different being, and each being watched her with expressions she could not read. Dr. Hannah Kwan was there too. She was Yuna's former teacher, a brilliant woman who had left field research years ago to serve as humanity's representative on the council. Her face was calm, but Yuna could see worry in her eyes. Dr. Yuna Park, a mechanical voice announced. You are called before this council to explain the events on Verath 7. Please take your position. Yuna walked to the speaking platform. Her legs felt weak, but she kept her back straight and her head high. The first to speak was Ambassador Vreel, a tall insectoid with shining black eyes and mandibles that clicked when it talked. You are the human who claims to have made peaceful contact with the Vorath. I am. This is impossible. The Vorath do not make peaceful contact. In 10,000 years of records, they have never allowed any sentient being within attacking range without killing them. Explain how you survived. I helped one that was injured. It was dying from parasites in a wound. I removed them and treated the infection. And it did not kill you? No. Ambassador Vreel made a sound that the translator turned into scornful laughter. Then he must have used some kind of human technology. Pheromones, neural manipulation, chemical agents. What did you use? Dr. Kwan stood up. The council has seen Dr. Park's records. There is no evidence of any technology being used. Then she is lying. Humans always lie. I did not use any technology, Yuna said. She kept her voice calm, though anger was building in her chest. I used bandages and medicine. That is all. Then how do you explain what happened? Ambassador Vreel demanded. The Vorath do not protect other species. They do not leave offerings. They do not stand guard over alien camps. What you are describing is impossible. I do not have an explanation. I only know what happened. A different voice spoke. It was soft and whispery, like wind through leaves. Perhaps I might offer a perspective. The speaker was Scholarantis, a being from the mist worlds. It had no solid body, just a cloud of glowing particles that shifted and swirled constantly. It was ancient, older than most species in the council, and it was known for its wisdom. Please, Scholarantis, Dr. Kwan said, the mist being floated forward. I have studied the Vorath for 300 years. I have watched them through cameras and drones and sensors. I have analyzed their behavior, their patterns, their communication, and I have never been able to predict what they would do. They are not animals. They are not simple predators. They are something else. What are you suggesting? Ambassador Vreel asked. I am suggesting that we have been approaching them wrong. Every species that has tried to study the Vorath has used tools, technology, force. We have tried to capture them, contain them, control them, and they have responded with violence. The mist being turned toward Yuna. But this human did something different. She offered help without expecting anything in return. She showed kindness to a creature that could have killed her. And the Vorath responded in kind. That is ridiculous, Ambassador Vreel said. Kindness is not a research methodology. Perhaps it should be. The chamber went quiet. Yuna could feel the weight of 12 different species watching her, judging her. Then another voice spoke. It was Dr. Kwan. We have received new information that the council should hear. She activated a display screen. An image appeared showing the Helix Dynamics camp on Vareth 7, 3 days ago. A Helix Dynamics operative returned to Vareth 7. He was attempting to capture a juvenile Vorath for transport off-world. The image changed to show a body on the ground. The Vorath killed him. But when rescue teams arrived to retrieve the body, something unusual happened. Another image appeared. It showed a group of humans standing near the crystal forest. Around them, in the trees, Yuna could see the dark shapes of Vorath watching. The Vorath allowed the rescue team to approach. They allowed them to take the body. They did not attack anyone who was not an immediate threat. Dr. Kwan looked at the council. In 10,000 years, the Vorath have never shown this kind of selective behavior. They have never made a distinction between threatening and non-threatening beings. Until now, silence filled the chamber. Scholar Antis floated forward again. I believe I understand what is happening. The Vorath are not protecting the human. They are choosing her. They have recognized something in her that they respect. And through her, they are beginning to see other humans differently. The mist being paused. This has never happened before. In all my years of study, in all the records of all the species that came before us, no one has ever been chosen by the Vorath. Ambassador Vriel's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is dangerous. If the Vorath become attached to humans, they could become weapons. They could be used for conquest. We should do nothing, Dr. Kwan interrupted. This is not a threat. This is an opportunity. For the first time, we have a chance to understand the Vorath, to communicate with them, to learn from them. She looked at Yuna. And it happened because one person showed compassion instead of fear. The council debated for hours. Ambassador Vriel argued for containment, control, restrictions. Scholar Antis argued for patience and study. Other representatives offered their own opinions, their own fears, their own hopes. In the end, they voted. Yuna would return to Vareth 7. She would be given resources, equipment, and a small team of carefully selected researchers. She would have full diplomatic protection from the council. And she would continue her work with the Vorath. Ambassador Vriel voted against the decision. So did 2 other species. But the majority supported Yuna. As she left the chamber, Scholar Antis floated beside her. You have been given a great responsibility, young human. The Vorath are ancient and powerful. They have destroyed civilizations that threatened them. But you have shown them something new. What? That there is another way. That not all beings seek to control and consume. That some offer kindness for its own sake. The mist being pulsed with soft light. Do not waste this chance. The galaxy is watching. Yuna returned to Vareth 7 the next day. When her shuttle landed, she walked out into the cool afternoon air and looked toward the crystal forest. The scarred Vorath was there, standing at the edge of the trees, watching, waiting. She raised her hand in greeting. The creature dipped its head in return. Whatever came next, they would face it together. 6 months had passed since the council made its decision. Everything had changed. The small research station that Yuna once occupied alone had grown into a proper observation post. New buildings had been added, new equipment installed, new people brought in. But everything was done carefully, slowly, with respect for the land and the creatures that lived on it. Dr. Junho Lee arrived first. He was young, only 25, but he was already known as one of the best language specialists in human space. He had decoded 3 alien communication systems before his 20th birthday. Now he spent his days watching Vorath behavior, recording their sounds, mapping their glowing patterns. Specialist Mirai Cho came next. She was a security officer, trained in combat and protection. The council had insisted on sending her, despite Yuna's protests. Mirai was professional and capable, but she was also deeply uncomfortable. She had read the reports about the Varth. She knew what they could do. Every time she saw one of the massive creatures moving through the trees, her hand went to her weapon. The Varth had changed too. They no longer hid from the cameras. They walked openly near the observation post, sometimes stopping to watch the humans work. They had established a territory around the buildings, a circle about 2 kilometers wide. Inside that circle, nothing hunted. Nothing threatened. It was safe space, protected by the most dangerous predators on the planet. Yuna had given the scarred Varth a name. She called it the Scarred One, which was not creative, but it was honest. The creature seemed to understand that it had been given a name. Its patterns pulsed differently when she spoke to it now. Brighter and more complex, Dr. Lee made his first breakthrough on a cold morning in the 3rd month. The patterns are not just decoration, he told Yuna, his eyes bright with excitement. They are language. Each combination of colors and movements means something different. I have identified over 200 distinct pattern sets so far. Can you understand them? Some, the basics. There is a pattern for danger, a pattern for food, a pattern for young ones, for territory, for greeting. He pulled up a recording on his screen. And there is a pattern they use only around us. Around humans. Yuna watched the recording. The Scarred One's body glowed with soft blue and silver light, moving in slow waves across its scales. What does it mean? The closest translation I can find is kin not kin, or maybe pack of different blood. They see us as connected to them, but also separate. Family that is not family. Dr. Lee smiled. They've made up a new word for us. Specialist Mirai was the next to experience something that changed. Her mind about the Varth. She was on patrol, near the edge of the protected territory, when she saw movement in the crystal trees. A young Varth, barely a meter tall, was trying to climb a steep rock face. Its claws scraped against the stone, but it could not find a grip. As Mirai watched, it slipped and fell. The fall was not far, but the young one landed badly. It let out a high cry of pain and tried to stand, but one of its front legs would not support its weight. Mirai's training told her to retreat. Do not approach. Do not interfere. Wait for backup. But she could hear the young one crying. It sounded like a child in pain. She contacted Yuna on her communication device. I have a situation. Young Varth injured about 500 meters from the post. I do not know what to do. Where is the parent? I do not see one. The young one is alone. Stay where you are. I am coming. Yuna arrived within minutes. She approached the young Varth slowly, speaking softly, just as she had done with the Scarred One. The creature watched her with fearful eyes, but it did not try to run. It was in too much pain. Its leg is sprained, Yuna said after examining it. Not broken. It will heal, but it needs rest. What do we do? We cannot just leave it here. We will not. They heard movement behind them. Mirai spun around, her weapon raised. A massive adult Varth stood at the edge of the clearing. Its patterns were dark red and orange. Warning colors. Anger. Its eyes were fixed on Mirai's weapon. Put it down, Yuna said quietly. Slowly. Do not make any sudden movements. Marie hesitated, then lowered her weapon. The adult Vareth's patterns shifted, becoming less aggressive, but it did not leave. Yuna finished wrapping the young one's leg. The creature made soft sounds as she worked, and she spoke gently to it, telling it that everything would be all right. When she was done, she backed away slowly. The adult Varth moved forward. It examined its child, sniffing the bandage, checking the injured leg. Then it turned to Yuna and Mireille. Its patterns changed to blue and silver. The kin-not-kin pattern. The adult picked up its young one gently and carried it into the forest. Before it disappeared, it turned back once and dipped its head. Mireille stood frozen for a long moment. Then she let out a breath she had been holding. I thought we were dead. They do not want to hurt us, Yuna said. They just want to protect their children. The same as anyone. I think I'm starting to understand that. As the months passed, Yuna began spending more time in Vorath territory. She walked among them, observed their families, learned their ways. They were not the mindless killers the galaxy believed them to be. They had complex social structures, with leaders and followers, teachers and students. They mourned their dead with long, silent gatherings. They taught their young through stories told in light. Then came the night, when everything changed again. Yuna was reviewing data in her office when her sensors detected something in the sky. A ship was entering the atmosphere. It was not human. It was not on any scheduled approach. And it was heading directly for the observation post. She contacted Commander An immediately. We have an unauthorized vessel approaching. I see it. The signature belongs to the Kirith Collective. Yuna's blood went cold. Ambassador of Real's people. What are they doing here? I do not know, but I am alerting the Council. Stay inside and do not engage. The Kirith ship landed 2 kilometers from the observation post. Within an hour, Yuna's sensors showed dozens of figures moving through the forest. They were armed. They were heading toward Vorath territory. Dr. Lee burst into her office. They are going to try to capture one. The Kirith have been collecting specimens illegally for centuries. They do not care about council rules. But why now? Why risk it? Because they are afraid. The Vorath are choosing humans. If they become our allies. He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. The door opened again. The scarred one stood outside, too large to enter the building, but its head was low enough to look through the doorway. Its patterns were urgent, pulsing rapidly in colors Yuna had never seen before. Dr. Lee stared at his translation device. It is saying, "Danger comes. Pack must defend." He looked up at Yuna with wide eyes. It is asking for help. Yuna looked at the massive creature, the apex predator that had once terrified the entire galaxy, now standing at her door, asking for her assistance. "Tell it we will help," she said. "Tell it we will not let them take anyone." The scarred one's patterns shifted to the deepest blue, and for the first time, Yuna heard it make a sound that was not a growl or a roar. It was almost like a purr. The Kirith had brought 50 soldiers. They had weapons designed for capturing large creatures, energy nets that could hold a starship, and tranquilizers strong enough to drop a beast 10 times the size of a Vorath. They had planned this for months, waiting for the perfect moment. They had not planned for what happened next. Yuna walked out of the observation post alone. She had told Dr. Lee and Mireille to stay inside, to record everything, to send it directly to the Galactic Council. Whatever happened in the next hour, the galaxy would see it. The Kirith commander met her at the edge of the clearing. He was tall even for his species, with armor that gleamed in the moonlight and eyes that showed no emotion at all. "Dr. Park," he said through his translator, "you should not be here. Return to your building. This does not concern you. You are on my research site. You are threatening creatures under my protection. This concerns me very much. The Vorath are not yours to protect. They are dangerous animals. They need to be studied, controlled. One specimen will teach us more than a century of observation. They are not animals. They are intelligent beings. They have language, culture, family. They deserve respect." The commander's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. Respect does not advance science. Specimens do. He raised his hand to signal his troops forward. Wait, the voice came from the forest. But it was not a voice. It was a pattern of light, so bright that it lit up the entire clearing. Una turned to look. The scarred one emerged from the trees. Behind it came others. Dozens of others. More Vorath than Una had ever seen in one place. They poured out of the forest from every direction, their massive bodies forming a wall of black scales and glowing light. Dr. Lee's voice came through her earpiece, trembling with awe. The patterns have been spreading. They have been calling to each other for months. Every Vorath on the continent has come. The Kirith soldiers backed up, their weapons raised but their hands shaking. The commander stood frozen, watching as the creatures surrounded his entire force. The scarred one walked forward until it stood beside Una. Its shoulder was level with her head. Its patterns pulsed in calm, steady waves. "You cannot fight them all," Una said to the commander. "Your weapons are for capture, not combat. And even if they were not, you are outnumbered 10-1 by the deadliest predators in the known galaxy. They are just animals. They will scatter if we show force. Try it. See what happens." The commander hesitated. His soldiers looked at him, waiting for orders. The Vorath waited too, their eyes glowing in the darkness, their bodies still as mountains. Then a transmission cut through the silence. It was broadcast on all frequencies, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Kirith forces, this is the Galactic Biological Council. You are ordered to stand down immediately. Your actions are in direct violation of Council law. Ambassador Vreel has been removed from his position pending investigation. If you do not withdraw within the hour, you will be declared hostile to the Council and dealt with accordingly." The voice belonged to Scholar Ontis. The ancient being's tone was calm, but there was steel beneath it. The commander's antenna twitched. He looked at Una, then at the wall of Vorath surrounding him, then at the sky where Council ships were already descending. "This is not over," he said. Double quotes. "Yes." He turned and ordered his troops to retreat. They moved quickly, almost running back to their ship. Within minutes, they were gone, their vessel disappearing into the night sky. Una stood in the clearing as the last of the Kirith engines faded. The Vorath remained, hundreds of them, their patterns shifting slowly from warning red to calm blue. They had won. They were safe. The scarred one turned to face her. It lowered its head until its eyes were level with hers. This close, she could see every detail of its face, every scar, every line. It was beautiful in a way she had never expected. Its patterns pulsed in the kin-not-kin pattern. Pack of different blood. Then they changed to something new. Something she had not seen before. "What is it saying?" She asked Dr. Lee through her earpiece. His voice was thick with emotion. "It is saying gratitude. Deep gratitude. The kind you show to someone who saved your life." He paused. "And it is saying something else. A promise. Always protect. Always guard. Always together." Tears rolled down Una's face. She reached out and touched the scarred one's snout gently. Its scales were warm beneath her fingers. "Always together," she whispered. 3 months later, the Galactic Council made an announcement that changed everything. The Vorath were officially recognized as a sentient species with full rights and protections under Council law. No one could hunt them, capture them, or harm them without facing the full force of galactic justice, and humanity was named as their advocates. Their voice. Their bridge to the rest of the galaxy. Other species sent diplomats to Vera 7 after that. They came not with weapons, but with offerings, hoping to understand what humans had understood first. Some succeeded. Most did not. The Vorath were choosy about who they trusted, but they always trusted. Una. She stayed on Vera 7 for the rest of her life. She built a home at the edge of Vorath territory, a small house with big windows that looked out over the crystal forest. The scarred one visited her every day, sometimes alone, sometimes with its family. Young Vorath played in her garden. Old ones rested in the shade of her roof. She grew old surrounded by creatures that had once terrified the galaxy. Creatures that had chosen her because she showed them kindness when no one else would. On her last night, when she was very old and very tired, she sat on her porch and watched the stars. The scarred one lay beside her, its body warm against the cold evening air. Its patterns moved slowly, telling stories she had learned to read over the years. "Why me?" she asked, as she had asked so many times before. "Of all the beings in the galaxy, why did you choose me?" The scarred one's patterns shifted. Dr. Lee had recorded this conversation years ago, but Yuna did not need the translation anymore. She knew what the creature was saying. "You saw us. Not prey. Not threat. Us. I just helped you because you were hurt. That is why." Yuna smiled and closed her eyes. The crystal trees chimed softly in the wind. The stars burned bright an eternal overhead dot in a galaxy that had only ever seen the Vorath as monsters. One human had seen them as beings worthy of compassion. She had whispered to a wounded predator, and it had changed everything. Her kindness had echoed across worlds. Her mercy had rewritten the future. And when she finally passed, surrounded by creatures that loved her, the entire Vorath species mourned. They sang for her in patterns of light that stretched from horizon to horizon. They told her story to their children and their children's children. They kept her memory alive for generations because she had taught them something precious, something the galaxy had forgotten, that the strongest force in the universe is not violence or power or fear. It is compassion. And sometimes, all it takes to change the world is one small act of kindness toward a creature in pain.